If there's one thing fishermen on social media know how to do, it's rip on other fishermen for the way that they handle and release their trout. Although most of the time this is justified, people are not handling their trout correctly. I think the way that people are going about it is not good. I think we're creating too many arguments, and I think in the end, nobody's learning anything because everyone's just battling and taking their side. I think all anglers, given the choice, would want every fish they release to swim off great. I just don't think a lot of them maybe know how to. So that's why I'm doing this video, to help kind of spread awareness on how to properly handle a trout. This works for all other fish as well, but trout is the main topic in today's video. For you advanced anglers, if I missed something in this video, if you guys want to comment down below a little extra tidbit to help out the beginners if they're going down there and scrolling and looking for extra advice, I would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Without further ado, let's get started in the video. Alrighty guys, first thing I'm going to show you here is a couple ways not to hold a trout. Now, the fish that I have in my net here that I'm going to be using as an example, I have already dispatched him. He's going to be my dinner tonight. So none of the ways that I am holding him right now, he's not going to be, released and harmed in any way because he's already dead. So I'm going to show you guys, number one way not to hold a trout is to lip him like a bass. We've all done it ourselves or seen somebody lip a trout like this. And that is one of the number one ways to ruin a trout's jaw and mess him up for good. Largemouth bass, this works all day long, but with trout, you do not want to do that. Number one, because it messes up their mouth in here, but number two, because trout are they're very sensitive fish, and they're meant to be held horizontal. If they're held vertical, there's things in their body, their stomach, and certain parts of their organs are going to get mixed up. And this is more of a worry with the big fish. The smaller fish like this is not as big of an issue, but either way, yeah, do not hold a fish like this by the lip. Not only is it bad for the fish, but you're gonna just look like an absolute goober doing it. All right, now another way not to hold a trout if you are catch and releasing him is by the gills. If you notice here, right here, I have my finger right through his gill plate and I'm holding him up vertical like this. That is not something that you're gonna wanna do. Now, fans of the channel may say, Casey, this is how you held your lake trout in one of your ice fishing videos. And there is an exception with big fish. There's a way to do it where if you put your hand under the gill plate where it's not harming the fish and you make sure you have another hand supporting on the back, it's going to be all right and the trout's gonna end up being okay. But that's only if it's a big trout and it's if you need that support to be able to hold the fish horizontally for a picture or just to lift him up, out of the ice or whatever. But typically, if you're a new angler, just don't do it at all until you figure out exactly how to do it to not harm the fish. All right, the last one here I'm gonna show you is one that I'm not gonna overdo it on this fish, but I have seen people do this to an extreme, and that is the death grip. You will see pictures of people holding a trout and they are squeezing so hard on that fish. It is insane. You can see its eyeballs starting to pop out. And I get it, trout are slimy, right? They're moving around all over the place. That's what a net is for, people. Especially this net right here, it is a foam net. You can put the net in the water with the fish and let him swim and hang out in the net. Keep him low to the ground, take a picture, and put him back in the net. You don't need to hold on to a fish for more than 15 seconds, so a death grip or something like that just isn't gonna be worth it. This fish, in this case, is small enough where you can just kind of do it like this and get a shot like that way and get him back in the net. But a death grip is never okay if you're planning on releasing that fish. I don't think I have to explain why a death grip is bad for a fish. I don't think I need to explain that one. Those are the main ways not to grab a fish. Don't do these, you're gonna look like a goober. All right, before we transition here into how to properly handle a trout, I did want to talk about the barbed versus barbless hooks debate for a quick minute here. In my opinion, if you are using live bait, you should always be using barbless. The chance that that fish is gonna gut hook live bait is so much better than with artificial. So I would say a single hook live bait, you should be throwing barbless. Any type of treble hook, you should be throwing barbless because those treble hooks can rip up those trout mouth. I've caught so many fish that had treble hooks nasty lodged in their mouth. They weren't able to spit them out. It wrecked their mouth. So treble hooks, barbless. The only one that I could make an exception on is artificial single hook. In my opinion, I think you're okay using barbed, especially if you're targeting really big fish and you just want that little extra security on there. But Barbless, you can't go wrong if you do barbless on everything. So that's just kind of my 2 cents on that. All right, now how to properly handle and release a trout. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we have here a beautiful, beautiful rainbow in the net. Now, if you guys notice 2 things right off the bat. Number 1, I am not wearing gloves. I do not believe in any type of fish handling gloves, especially when you're on a river. I just don't think it's worth it. The only exception I would make is if you're ice fishing and your hands are really, really cold. I think in that case, it may be safer to have keep your hands a little warm and have a better grip on the fish, but overall, just don't wear gloves, just don't do it. Also, you guys will notice here, I have a rubber knotless net, and that is crucial because these fish, that slime coating, you know, that makes them so slimy and hard to hold, that slime is what's protecting them from bacteria and diseases and things that could harm them. So having one of those nylon knotted nets or having dry hands or dry gloves, you're stripping that slime off the fish and making them susceptible to getting really, really sick. And even though you don't see it when you release that fish right away, over time, those fish will develop bacteria and bad little funguses. And if you've ever seen a messed up rainbow trout with a bunch of bacteria and like, you know, his tail's ripped up, that's probably because somebody didn't handle that fish correctly. So just keep that in mind here. All right, so I'll show you guys the fish here. He's a beautiful, probably around 14-inch, 15-inch rainbow. You guys will notice I'm going to support him in 2 ways here. I'm going to hold him one by the body and one by the tail, and I'm going to keep him low to the ground. You do not want to have a fish way up here, way up high, especially if you're in a rocky area, because if that fish were to flip out and drop on the ground, he's banging his head up on the rocks and, you know, he's messing himself up. So you want to make sure he's low to the ground in case he's really squirrely. That way you can just drop him right back in the water or right back into your net. As you see, gorgeous. Woo! That's exactly why we keep them low to the ground, because of that right there. As you guys see here, beautiful, beautiful rainbow. You notice one by the head, one by the tail, just like that. See how squirmy those fish are? This is a lively one because I fought him pretty fast in the net, so he's got a lot of energy. But if you guys notice how important it is to keep him low to the ground because the fish are gonna move. Beautiful rainbow though. I'm only gonna have him out of the water for 10 to 15 seconds. That's what I personally believe in. I know some guys say 5 to 10 seconds. Other guys say 35, 45 seconds, he's okay. I think around 15 is a good mark. So if you notice how I supported him there, right? If it's a smaller fish, you can just hold it with one hand like this. This fish, you could probably do one hand as well, but I wanted to show you what it was like to hold a fish with 2 hands. Any fish bigger than this, I would definitely use 2 hands to hold him. All right, so I'm gonna release this fish right here, and what you guys will notice is I will not let him go until he is kicking. I need this fish to pull out of my hand before I let him swim away. You do not want to just push a fish back in the water and say, oh, he went off okay. You want to make sure that fish is strong and kicking out of your hand. This fish here is really lively, so I know that's not going to be a problem. Beautiful, ooh, beautiful fish. Gonna keep him in the water here. He has got energy. I'm gonna hold him just right here, right along. Whoop, and look at that. You notice how he kicked really, really hard out of my hands. But yeah, the main takeaways here, always keep him in the water. Don't ever flip him up on land and, you know, with all this sand, you don't want him looking like a corn dog, right? Just keep him in the water and follow the steps I did right now, and that fish will swim off happy and healthy. For any of you that do not agree 100% with the way that I do this, please leave a comment below and I'd love to have a discussion with you. The point here is not to argue and fight and prove each other wrong, but just find common ground and get a safe way to handle and release these trout so that everybody wins in the end. I will say though, I have a lot of scientific evidence backing my way up. I will put all the links in the description below to the articles that support how I've done it in today's video. If you guys like this video, you're also gonna love this one right here. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys next time on Humbug Videos.